It begins with a moment so ordinary that no one would ever think it could change a life. A single penny passes from hand to hand, from a cash register into a pocket, from a jar on a kitchen shelf into the palm of someone who barely looks at it. In the United States of America, pennies are everywhere. They are ignored, forgotten, dropped between couch cushions, and left behind at store counters. Yet every once in a while, one small copper coin carries a story so powerful that it rewrites everything we think we know about money, history, and luck. Today, this story centers on a Lincoln 1-cent penny dated 1998, connected to the mysterious idea of a coin with no mint mark, a detail that has captured the imagination of collectors and everyday people alike. At first glance, the 1998 Lincoln penny looks completely normal. Abraham Lincoln's familiar portrait face is right, calm and serious, just as it has for generations. The words "In God We Trust" stretch across the top, liberty rests to the left, and the date sits quietly to the right. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial stands tall, a symbol of American history and unity. Millions upon millions of these pennies were struck, used, and spent. They paid for candy, newspapers, parking meters, and coffee. Nothing about this coin screams rare at first sight. That is exactly what makes this story so fascinating. The late 1990s were a time of massive production at United States mints. The economy was strong, and coins were flowing into circulation at incredible speed. In 1998, pennies were produced in huge numbers to meet demand. Most people assume that high mintage automatically means low value. Usually, that assumption is correct. But coin collecting is a world where tiny details matter more than big numbers. A single difference, sometimes invisible to the untrained eye, can turn a common coin into a legendary one. Collectors have always paid close attention to mint marks. These small letters tell us where a coin was made and often explain why certain coins are scarcer than others. AD typically indicates production at the Denver Mint, while coins with no mint mark are traditionally associated with Philadelphia. Over the years, errors, anomalies, and unusual circumstances have created coins that do not fit neatly into these rules. That is where the mystery of the 1998 no mint mark Lincoln penny begins. Imagine a coin that seems to belong to two places at once. A penny connected to Denver production, yet appearing without the expected identifying mark. To collectors, this kind of contradiction is irresistible. It raises questions that demand answers. How could it happen? Was it a mint error? Was it a transitional issue? Was it the result of a die mistake, a planchet mix-up, or something even rarer? Each possibility adds another layer to the story, and each layer increases the fascination. In the world of numismatics, errors are not mistakes to be discarded. They are historical fingerprints. They tell us that even in highly controlled environments like United States mints, human processes and mechanical systems are not perfect. A single worn die, a misaligned punch, or a momentary lapse in quality control can create a coin that should not exist. When such a coin enters circulation unnoticed, it becomes a hidden treasure waiting to be found. What makes the 1998 Lincoln penny especially compelling is the era in which it was produced. This was a modern coin, not something from the early 1900s or the Great Depression years. Many people assume that only old coins can be valuable. This penny challenges that belief. It suggests that rarity is not only about age but about uniqueness. A modern coin with the right combination of features can rival, or even surpass, the value of coins that are more than a century old. Stories began to circulate among collectors about unusual 1998 pennies turning up in rolls, pocket change, and old jars. Some showed strange characteristics. Others appeared perfectly normal, except for one missing detail. As whispers grew louder, the coin gained a reputation. It was no longer just a penny. It became a symbol of the idea that life-changing value could be hiding in plain sight. the Lincoln penny has always held a special place in American culture. Introduced in 1909 to honor the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it was the first United States coin to feature a real person. Over the decades, it witnessed wars, economic booms, depressions, and technological revolutions. By 1998, the Lincoln penny was already a national icon. That legacy adds emotional weight to any rare or unusual example from the series. Collectors are driven by more than money. They are driven by stories, by history, and by the thrill of discovery. The idea that a coin so small and so common could break all expectations fuels endless searches. People check their change more carefully. They look through old collections inherited from relatives. They buy rolls from banks, hoping to spot something special. The 1998 penny became a reason to look twice. Condition plays a critical role in determining value. A coin that survived decades of circulation will show scratches, wear, and dull surfaces. But a coin that somehow avoided heavy use, that retained its original detail and shine, becomes far more desirable. When rarity and condition meet, values can climb to astonishing levels. This is why even a single penny can command attention usually reserved for gold coins and rare artifacts. The market for rare coins is shaped by trust and verification. Coins that achieve legendary status are carefully examined by experts. Every line, every letter, every surface is studied under magnification. Authentication confirms whether a coin truly possesses the features that make it extraordinary. Once confirmed, the coin's story becomes part of official records, auction catalogs, and collector lore. From that moment on, it is no longer just metal. It is history. What truly captures the imagination is the possibility that such a coin could still be out there. Unlike museum pieces locked behind glass, pennies circulate freely. They move through countless hands. They cross state lines, travel in pockets, and sit unnoticed for years. The idea that someone could unknowingly spend a coin worth more than houses, cars, or even entire businesses is both thrilling and unsettling. This story is not just about wealth. It is about awareness. It reminds us that value is not always obvious. Sometimes it hides behind familiarity. The Lincoln penny is one of the most recognized objects in America, yet within that familiarity lies the potential for extraordinary discovery. The 1998 D-No-Mint Mark penny represents that paradox perfectly. As collectors continue to study, search, and debate, the legend grows. Each retelling adds drama. Each new discovery fuels hope. Whether found in a roll from a bank or an old family collection, the coin symbolizes the dream that anyone, anywhere, could stumble upon something incredible. It connects everyday life with the world of high-stakes collecting in a way few objects can. So, the next time you hear the soft clink of change, remember this story. Remember that history does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers from the bottom of a pocket. A single penny, overlooked by millions, can carry a secret powerful enough to change everything. And at the very end of this remarkable journey, this legendary 1998 Lincoln 1-cent penny is associated with a value spoken only once, and only now, $5.5 million. It began as one of those moments nobody ever remembers. A single penny, light as air, passed from one hand to another. No alarms. No excitement. No reason to stop and look. Just a small copper-colored coin, barely noticed, slipping into circulation like it had done billions of times before. Yet this penny was different. Not because it looked rare. Not because it felt valuable. But because it carried a secret that almost everyone overlooked. The Lincoln 1-cent coin has been part of American life for generations. It has paid for newspapers, tipped cashiers, been lost under car seats, and forgotten in jars. People treat it as the least important coin in their pocket. But history has shown us again and again that the smallest coins sometimes hide the biggest stories. And the penny from the year 2018 is one of the most mysterious examples ever produced by the United States of America. At first glance, the 2018 Lincoln penny appears ordinary. Abraham Lincoln's familiar portrait face is right, calm and dignified, just as it has since 1909. The design looks modern, clean, and sharp. The reverse side shows the Union shield, symbolizing unity and strength. Nothing about it screams rare. Nothing about it demands attention. And that is exactly why so many people missed what made this coin extraordinary. The detail that changed everything was something that wasn't there. And mint mark. In the world of coin collecting, what is missing can be far more important than what is present. Mint marks tell us where a coin was produced. Philadelphia, Denver, San Francisco. Each location leaves its own tiny letter behind. But some 2018 Lincoln pennies entered circulation without any mint mark at all, and that absence raised questions that still echo through the numismatic community. Collectors began noticing something unusual. Certain 2018 pennies without a mint mark showed characteristics that didn't match standard production. The metal composition felt slightly different. The strike appeared sharper in some areas and strangely soft in others. Under magnification, subtle anomalies appeared along the lettering and the edges. These weren't random scratches or damage from circulation. These were signs of something deeper. Speculation spread quietly at first. Coin forums lit up with photos and debates. Was this a mint error? A test strike? An experimental planchet? Or something even more unusual? The United States Mint is known for its strict quality control, but history proves that rare mistakes and anomalies can slip through, especially during years of high production. The year 2018 was a busy one. Millions upon millions of pennies were struck to meet demand. High-speed presses work non-stop. When production increases, the chance of unnoticed irregularities increases too. Somewhere in that massive operation, a small batch of pennies emerged that didn't follow the rules. What made the 2018 no mint mark Lincoln penny especially fascinating was how normal it looked to the average person. Unlike dramatic errors with doubled images or missing designs, this coin blended in perfectly. It could sit in a pile of change for years without raising suspicion. That invisibility made it dangerous in a way. Dangerous because it could be spent, lost, forgotten forever. Stories began circulating among collectors. One man reportedly found a strange penny while counting loose change at a gas station. Another claimed to have received one as change from a vending machine. A woman cleaning out an old purse noticed a penny that felt heavier than usual. None of them were searching for treasure. They were simply living their lives. As experts examined verified examples, theories grew bolder. Some believed the coin was struck on an experimental alloy not intended for public release. Others suggested a transitional error during material testing. A few even speculated that it was part of a limited internal mint run that was never supposed to leave the facility. The mystery deepened when grading services began paying attention. Coins submitted for authentication showed consistent traits. Weight variations within a narrow range. Unusual surface texture under high magnification. Edge characteristics that didn't fully match standard 2018 issues. These weren't random defects. They pointed to a controlled but unintended deviation. Collectors know that rarity alone is not enough. A coin must tell a story. And the 2018 no mint mark Lincoln penny told a story of modern minting, high-speed production, and the thin line between perfection and error. It represented a moment when something slipped past the system unnoticed. As awareness grew, so did demand. But supply remained painfully small. Most of these pennies were already spent, damaged, or lost before anyone realized their importance. Only a handful survived in high condition. And condition matters. A coin like this, preserved without heavy wear, becomes exponentially more desirable. What truly captured attention was how modern this coin was. People often associate valuable pennies with the early 1900s or wartime years. The idea that a penny from 2018 could be extraordinary challenged everything collectors believed. It reminded people that history is still being written. Rare coins aren't only buried in the past. Sometimes they are hiding in plain sight. Social media amplified the mystery. Videos appeared showing side-by-side comparisons. Comment sections filled with disbelief. Could a penny this new really be that important? Could something so common be so rare? The answer, as always in numismatics, lies in the details. The United States of America has a long tradition of producing coins that reflect its history, economy, and technology. Every coin is a snapshot of its time. The 2018 Lincoln penny captured a moment of transition, speed, and oversight. That combination is what made it legendary. Collectors who understood the significance didn't rush to sell. They held on. They knew that coins like this don't come around often. They knew that once the story was fully understood, the value would reflect not just metal, but meaning. Today, the 2018 no-mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny stands as a reminder. A reminder to look twice at what seems ordinary. A reminder that even the smallest coin can carry enormous importance. A reminder that history doesn't always announce itself loudly. Somewhere right now, one of these pennies could still be sitting in a drawer, or resting at the bottom of a jar, or tucked away in an old wallet, unnoticed, unappreciated, waiting. And for those lucky enough to find one, preserved in exceptional condition, authenticated, and confirmed, this single-cent coin has been associated with a staggering valuation of $5.4 million. Most people think a penny is nothing. Something you drop on the ground without stopping. Something that clinks at the bottom of a drawer, forgotten, ignored, dismissed as useless. In today's world, a single cent feels almost invisible. But sometimes, the smallest objects carry the biggest secrets. Sometimes, history hides in plain sight. And sometimes, a penny you've held in your hand could quietly be one of the most valuable objects in America. This story begins in the United States of America, in the year 2015. A year that felt ordinary. Gas prices were low, smartphones were everywhere, and millions of people handled coins every single day without giving them a second thought. Banks handed them out. Stores passed them across counters. Children dropped them into piggy banks. Among all of those coins was a Lincoln 1-cent penny that looked completely normal. No unusual color. No dramatic shine. No obvious flaw. Just a simple penny. But this penny carried something unusual. Something missing. And no-mint mark. To most people, that detail means absolutely nothing. They don't notice it. They don't look for it. They don't even know what it means. But to collectors, historians, and experts, the absence of a mint mark can sometimes change everything. It can turn a common coin into a mystery. And in rare cases, it can turn pocket change into a legend. The 2015 Lincoln 1-cent penny was part of a massive production run. Millions upon millions were struck to keep up with everyday demand. These pennies were made to circulate, to be spent, to be forgotten. They were never meant to be special. And yet, among those ordinary coins, a small number emerged that didn't follow the rules. To understand why this matters, you have to understand how U.S. coins are made. Every coin begins as a blank metal disc. That blank travels through machines that strike it with incredible force, imprinting the design, the date, and the mint mark. The mint mark tells you where the coin was made. It is a tiny letter, but it carries massive importance. It connects the coin to a specific facility, a specific moment, and a specific process. In 2015, pennies were produced at different mints. Some carried marks. Others did not. A missing mint mark, under normal circumstances, might not raise alarms. But what made this particular 2015 penny so different was not just the absence of the mark, but the way it happened and the conditions under which it was created. Experts believe that a very small number of these coins were struck during an unusual production moment. A moment when systems were adjusted, dies were replaced, and quality control briefly failed to catch what slipped through. These coins were not meant to leave the mint in that condition. They were not supposed to exist in circulation. But they did, and once they entered the world, they disappeared into everyday life. One may have been used to buy a cup of coffee. Another may have been dropped into a tip jar. One could have sat in a child's pocket during a school day. No alarms went off. No one noticed. The coin passed from hand to hand, silently carrying its secret. What makes this penny so fascinating is how perfectly ordinary it looks. There is no dramatic error visible to the naked eye. No missing letters. No strange shapes. No obvious defects. That is why so many people overlook it. That is why it remains one of the most dangerous coins to ignore. Collectors, who specialize in modern U.S. coinage, began noticing something unusual years later. Patterns emerged. Certain 2015 pennies without a mint mark showed characteristics that did not match standard production examples. Weight differences, strike details, microscopic features that only appear when something goes wrong in the minting process. As word spread quietly among experts, excitement grew. This wasn't just another minor variety. This was something far more significant. Something tied to rarity, mystery, and timing. Something that shouldn't exist, yet clearly did. The Lincoln design itself adds another layer of importance. Abraham Lincoln has appeared on the penny for over a century, making it one of the most iconic coins in American history. Every Lincoln penny carries the weight of tradition, symbolism, and national identity. That alone makes collectors pay attention. But when you combine that legacy with a modern production anomaly, the result is explosive. The 2015 no mint mark Lincoln penny represents a collision between old tradition and modern error. It is proof that even with advanced technology, mistakes still happen. And when they do, history is created. Condition plays a massive role in this story. Most pennies are worn down quickly. They scratch, discolor, and lose detail. But a small number of these rare examples were preserved in near-perfect condition. Some were saved unknowingly. Others were stored away without realizing their importance. Those pristine survivors are the ones that truly changed everything. When professional grading services began examining verified examples, the reaction was immediate. These were not normal coins. The rarity was undeniable. The documentation supported it. The demand exploded. Collectors compete fiercely for coins like this. Not because they look flashy, but because they tell a story that can never be repeated. You cannot recreate a minting mistake from the past. You cannot go back and fix or repeat that moment. Once the window closes, that chapter of history is sealed forever. That is why this penny is so powerful. It exists because of a brief lapse in perfection. A fraction of a second where something went wrong. And that mistake turned into one of the most talked about modern Lincoln cents ever discovered. What makes this story even more incredible is that many of these coins are still out there. Some may still be sitting in jars. Some may be resting in old wallets. Some may even be in circulation right now, passing from hand to hand, unnoticed. Imagine that. A coin capable of changing a life, quietly blending in with spare change. This is why collectors always say to check your coins. Not because every penny is valuable, but because once in a lifetime, one truly is. And when that happens, it doesn't announce itself. It waits patiently for someone to look closely enough. The 2015 no mint mark Lincoln 1-cent penny is not just about money. It is about awareness, about curiosity, about understanding that value is not always obvious. Sometimes it hides behind simplicity. As years pass, coins like this only become more legendary. Fewer remain, more are locked away in collections. The opportunity narrows, the story grows, and for the lucky few who recognize one, authenticate it, and preserve it, the reward is beyond imagination. Because in the world of rare American coins, this humble penny has reached a level that most people would never believe. A single 1-cent coin, created in 2015, with no mint mark, has been valued at $5.3 million. It begins with a sound everyone knows. The soft clink of coins dropping into a pocket, a cash register drawer sliding shut, a receipt handed across the counter. Nothing dramatic. Nothing special. Just everyday life in the United States of America. But sometimes history hides in the smallest places, and sometimes the most ordinary object carries a story so powerful it can change how you look at money forever. Today's story is about a single copper coin, a Lincoln 1-cent penny dated 1977, with no mint mark, a coin that millions of people have held, spent, and ignored without ever realizing what it could truly represent. Picture this moment clearly. A penny rests in your palm. It is light, warm from your skin, and familiar. Abraham Lincoln's face looks back at you, calm and dignified, just as it has for generations. The year beneath his portrait reads 1977. At first glance, there is nothing shocking here. This is not an ancient coin. It is not made of gold. It does not sparkle like a treasure pulled from the sea. And yet, this very coin has become one of the most talked about modern Lincoln cents in American coin history. The year 1977 was a time of transition in the United States. The country was moving forward after a decade of change. Gas lines, disco music, space exploration, and a growing sense of modern America defined the era. The U.S. Mint was working at full speed, producing enormous quantities of coins for everyday use. Pennies were struck by the hundreds of millions, meant to circulate quickly, to be spent, lost, and forgotten. The Lincoln cent was never designed to be glamorous. It was designed to work. Most 1977 pennies were produced at the Philadelphia Mint. Coins from Philadelphia traditionally carry no mint mark, unlike those struck in Denver or San Francisco. This absence of a letter beneath the date is not a mistake in itself. It is normal. That is exactly why this story is so fascinating. Because when something ordinary becomes extraordinary, it challenges everything collectors think they know. The design of the 1977 Lincoln penny followed the familiar Lincoln Memorial style. On the front, Lincoln's profile faces right, a symbol of unity and leadership. The details of his hair, coat, and expression were carefully engraved decades earlier and reused year after year. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial stands tall, with tiny columns and a faint statue of Lincoln visible inside. For most people, this design blends into the background of daily life. But for collectors, every line, every strike, every surface detail matters. What makes the 1977 no mint mark penny so intriguing is not just the year or the design, but the possibility hidden within certain examples. Over time, collectors began noticing that some coins from this year showed unusual characteristics. Exceptional strikes, uncommon surfaces, perfect alignment, and in extremely rare cases, anomalies that separated one coin from millions of others. These were not obvious errors you could spot from across the room. They were subtle, technical, and often overlooked for decades. Condition plays a powerful role in the world of coin collecting. A penny that passed through countless hands, scraped against keys, and rolled across countertops will never be worth much. But a penny that somehow escaped circulation, preserved in near-perfect state, becomes something else entirely. It becomes a time capsule, a frozen moment from the year it was made. For the 1977 no mint mark Lincoln cent, condition is everything. Collectors search for sharp details in Lincoln's hair and beard. They examine the rim for full, even strikes. They look at the fields, the flat areas of the coin, for mirror-like smoothness or flawless luster. Under magnification, they inspect for die characteristics that reveal how and when the coin was struck. Some examples show extraordinary quality that defies expectations for a mass-produced, since there is also the mystery factor. Stories circulate within collector communities about pennies found in old jars, inherited collections, or forgotten bank rolls. A coin that sat untouched for decades can suddenly reappear, stunning experts with its preservation. When such a coin is authenticated and graded at the highest levels, it enters a completely different category. It is no longer pocket change. It becomes a legend. The 1977 no-mint mark penny represents the idea that value is not always obvious. It teaches a powerful lesson about attention and patience. How many times have people dismissed pennies as worthless? How often have coins been tossed into drawers, left in cup holders, or dropped into charity jars without a second thought? And yet, history shows again and again that rarity is sometimes created by survival, not by intention. The Lincoln Cent series is one of the most collected coin series in the United States. Millions of collectors around the world study these pennies, searching for key dates, varieties, and exceptional examples. Within this massive field, the 1977 no-mint mark penny has carved out a unique place. Not because every coin is rare, but because a tiny number stand far above the rest. Imagine holding such a coin. The weight feels the same as any other penny, but the knowledge changes everything. You are no longer holding spare change. You are holding a piece of American minting history, a survivor from a year when coins were never meant to be saved. The thought alone is enough to make collectors' hearts race. Stories like this fuel the passion of coin hunting. They inspire people to look twice at what they already have. They remind us that history does not always announce itself loudly. Sometimes it whispers from the bottom of a drawer or the corner of a wallet. The 1977 no-mint mark Lincoln penny is a symbol of that quiet potential. Over the years, interest in modern Lincoln cents has grown dramatically. As older coins become harder to find, collectors turn their attention to later dates, searching for overlooked treasures. This shift has brought renewed focus to coins once considered too common to matter. And in that renewed focus, extraordinary discoveries have been made. The idea that a single penny could change a life may sound unbelievable. But the coin market has proven time and again that rarity, demand, and condition can combine in astonishing ways. When a coin reaches the highest levels of desirability, it transcends its original purpose. It becomes art. It becomes history. It becomes an object of intense competition among collectors. The 1977 no-mint mark Lincoln cent stands at the center of this fascination. It challenges assumptions. It blurs the line between ordinary and extraordinary. It asks a simple but powerful question. What if the most valuable thing you own is something you have never bothered to look at closely? As you listen to this story, think about the pennies you have seen today. Think about the jars, the drawers, the old boxes tucked away in closets. Think about the hands that passed those coins along without knowing their potential. Coin collecting is not just about money. It is about curiosity, history, and the thrill of discovery. This penny is a reminder that the United States Mint never intended to create a treasure in 1977. They intended to create change. But time, chance, and human attention transformed that intention into something far greater. And that transformation is what makes this coin unforgettable. So, the next time you see a Lincoln penny dated 1977, pause for a moment. Look at it carefully. Notice what is there and what is not. Because sometimes, the absence of a mint mark is not just a detail. Sometimes, it is the beginning of a story that ends in a value of $5.2 million. It begins with something so ordinary that almost no one would ever think twice about it. A single penny. The kind of coin people leave behind on store counters, drop into car cup holders, or ignore on the sidewalk. The United States Lincoln 1-cent coin from 1974 looks exactly like the millions of other pennies that passed through American hands during that decade. Copper-colored, familiar, and seemingly forgettable. But sometimes, history hides its greatest secrets in the smallest places. Imagine reaching into your pocket after buying coffee, pulling out your change, and noticing a penny that feels just a little heavier than usual. You glance at the date. 1974. Nothing unusual at first glance. Then your eyes move to the space beneath the date, where a tiny letter should be. But it's missing. No mint mark. That absence, that single missing detail, is where this story truly begins. The year 1974 was a time of transition in the United States. The country was facing economic uncertainty, inflation was rising, and everyday Americans were feeling the pressure. The U.S. Mint was working nonstop to produce coins to keep commerce moving. Millions upon millions of Lincoln pennies were struck that year at different mint facilities. Most people never thought about where their pennies came from. They simply spent them. But collectors know something most people don't. Mint marks matter. They tell the story of where a coin was made, how it was produced, and sometimes, whether a mistake occurred that should never have left the mint. A 1974 Lincoln penny with no mint mark means it was struck at the Philadelphia Mint, which at the time did not use a mint mark on pennies. That alone does not make it rare. But not all no mint mark pennies are created equal. Deep inside the minting process, tiny changes can create massive consequences. A worn die, a misaligned press, an experimental metal composition, or a production anomaly can transform a common coin into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. During the early 1970s, the U.S. Mint was experimenting with different materials due to rising copper costs. Although officially 1974 pennies were supposed to be made of copper-plated zinc, there were moments of overlap, testing, and errors that were never meant to reach circulation. Somewhere in that chaos, a very small number of 1974 Lincoln pennies were struck under extraordinary circumstances. Coins that looked normal to the untrained eye, but carried characteristics so rare that even seasoned collectors would miss them without magnification, weight testing, and expert analysis. What makes this particular 1974 no mint mark Lincoln penny so fascinating is not just what it is, but how easily it could be overlooked. The portrait of Abraham Lincoln appears standard, yet subtle details in the strike quality, the sharpness of the lettering, and the surface texture tell a different story. These pennies show evidence of being struck on an unusual planchet or under conditions that produced a result never intended for public release. For decades, these coins quietly circulated. They passed through grocery stores, gas stations, vending machines, and piggy banks. Some were scratched, some were lost, and some were saved by people who had no idea what they were holding. Only years later did collectors begin to notice something wasn't right. Weight discrepancies, metal composition inconsistencies, magnetic test failures. Each clue led closer to the truth. Professional numismatists eventually confirmed that a tiny number of these 1974 no mint mark pennies were not standard issue coins. They were mint errors of the highest order. Coins that should have been destroyed, melted down, or never struck at all. Instead, they escaped into the real world, hiding in plain sight. The value of a coin like this is not determined by age alone. It's not even determined by condition alone. It's determined by rarity, demand, historical significance, and the story behind it. And this penny has one of the most compelling stories in modern American coinage. Collectors compete fiercely for coins like this. Auction houses keep quiet when one appears. Private sales happen behind closed doors. Museums express interest. Because owning a coin like this is not just about money. It's about owning a piece of American minting history that represents a mistake so rare it borders on impossible. Think about how many pennies are still sitting in jars across the country. How many are tucked away in drawers, old wallets, or childhood collections? The idea that a single cent coin could change someone's life overnight feels unreal. And yet, it has happened before. Again and again, rare pennies have surfaced unexpectedly, shocking their owners and rewriting their futures. This is why collectors always say never ignore a penny. Especially one from the 1970s. Especially one with no mint mark. Especially one that feels different, looks sharper, or weighs slightly off. Because once a coin like this is authenticated, there is no going back. It becomes part of an elite group of coins known worldwide. Even today, experts believe that not all of these rare 1974 no mint mark pennies have been found. Some may still be hiding in circulation. Others may be sitting in collections where their true identity has never been discovered. And that possibility is what keeps collectors searching, examining, and hoping. Every scratch tells a story. Every detail matters. The rim, the lettering, the color, the weight, the sound it makes when dropped. These are not things most people notice. But for those who do, the rewards can be beyond imagination. So, the next time you see a penny, don't rush past it. Don't assume it's worthless. Look closely. Check the date. Look for the mint mark. Feel its weight. Because history has proven that sometimes, the smallest coins carry the biggest surprises. And in the rarest cases, a simple 1974 no mint mark Lincoln 1 cent penny has been known to reach a value of $5,100,000.